dance, and tell jokes. Okay. So I think a lot of people get me wrong sometimes when I say students, wants, needs, expectation, student choice, and all. That doesn't mean that you're there to entertain them. You don't have to be a comedian. You don't have to be a singer. You don't have to make them laugh, right? You don't have to. All right. I mean, if they laugh and that's cool. That's all good, but that's not your job. Okay. Um, so when we do songs and you do chants, it should have an educational outcome with it. A good teacher always adjusts their teaching to the students. Always. Good teachers usually, I said this a lot. I've done this a lot.
Use a lot of repetition.
Use a lot of repetition. Remember, I keep on saying, I know I sound like a broken record. Right? I know I sound like a broken record. That's what we do as teachers. We use repetition, but we use iteration, right? We do things differently. We don't just repeat, we do it in a different way. Student spoken error may show us all the following except
What the students haven't learned. Learners interlanguage development of language.
Student spoken error may show us all the following except
What is LI?
language, the first language tongue. So your native tongue. L1 is your native tongue.
What the students haven't learned. Learners interlanguage. Okay, no.
Interlanguage. We talked about interlanguage.
Yes.
Remember what interlanguage is, right?
Development of.
Remember what interlanguage is?
Yes, when you are trying to use this language.
And the L1 or what the previous languages they know, it's a point in how you acquire a language. You go from nothing and then you test it out and use kind of what you already know with what you're learning as an interlanguage until you move to the language itself. All right. So we know interlanguage is going to be there. So it's the development of the student's learning.
Okay.
All right. So errors don't really tell us about development.
Okay.
83. Spoken errors are best corrected by
Remodeling.
remodeling. We call it recasting.
Yeah.
Recasting. Remodeling, recasting. Remember we talked about recasting? I ain't got no pen. You don't have a pen? Okay. You call it remodeling here. You call it recasting also. Correction should be all of the following rules except forceful. Right? Correction is never forceful. Understandable, non-threatening, doable. Right? 85. Previewing the target language can be accomplished by when we preview the target language, we're always doing what? Getting students to what? Speak, right? So we're listening from students, D. Always. Everything we do, we're trying to get them to speak. We're trying to get them to speak. We're trying to get them to speak. We're trying to get them to participate. So we're always eliciting from the warmer all the way to even when they're writing, teaching writing, right? We're getting them to listen. We're trying to get them to speak. Remember, teaching speaking is an integrative competency domain. D. Modeling requires
Slow words by words spoken.
slow words. What did I say yesterday about slowing down speech? Don't ever slow down speech. Requires appropriate symbols. He didn't really talk about that. Appropriate symbols. So you got to remember this appropriate symbols.
Answer B.
B. So appropriate symbols that the student understands, right? The learners understand. Control practice is
Learner settle.
hmm?
Learner settle.
Control practice. Who's controlling the practice?
Okay, teacher directed.
That's the one time where the teacher is directing everything, right? Teacher's directing everything. We don't stay in control practice. It's just a part of the model, right? We get out of control practice and then we move back into more student centered. But control practice is important when they don't know much of anything. Okay? So don't let people tell you that teacher-based instruction has no value. It has a lot of value. It's just we need to move out of teacher-based instruction into student-centered learning as the lesson progresses, as the unit progresses. 88. Communicative speaking, student-student interactions can be varied by all of the following except teacher
elicitation.
89. Scaffolding is best described by scaffolding is when we helping the students, right? Step by step. We scaffold. It's best determined by teacher explanation, careful correction, focused learning interactions, or testing. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Yeah.
So they say what? Focused learning interactions. All those things from the warmer, control practice, vocabulary, control practice, context and modeling, control practice, vocabulary expansion, teaching listening, teaching reading, teaching writing. These are all learning interactions. Okay. Reading is best presented by teacher reading out loud. What we talk about?
Student, you say
Student what?
student
Discussion and
Prediction. Remember, we want to get them to predict. That's why we front load the questions. What do you think? Today we're going to read a story about a man who lost his shoe. All right. What do you think is going to happen at the end of this story? Why did the man lose their shoe? Now they haven't read the story yet. They're predicting, right? And they're talking. Have you ever lost a shoe? Was it an expensive shoe? How did you feel when you lost your shoe? Teacher, I lost my shoe at the bouncy castle. I lost my shoe. I don't know if somebody took it or what happened to my shoe. I was so mad. All right. So student discussion and prediction. The objective of reading is for students to
understand the grammatic form. Know all they should understand.
We don't want to use the word understand, right? How do we know students understand? Not smart, right? Understand is not smart. Use. Because these are objectives, and all objectives must be what?
Used.
All objectives must be what?
Smart.
Understand is not smart. All right. Answer comprehension questions, that's too limited because that's just staying in one area of Bloom's, right? So we want to go up. Know all the words. Do they need to know all the words? No, they don't need to know all the words. But they need to use the ideas and language. That's what we really want. Okay? We want them to use the ideas. And math, when you teach math, you want them to be able to use the reading. Apply it. Okay? Listening content should be
Repeated.
If y'all got that wrong, then we would have been fighting up in here. A good teacher, I've said this several times. A good teacher, I've said this several times. A good teacher.
Makes classes fun.
No, not make classes fun. You're not an entertainer.
Knows what to do.
Knows what to do and when to do it. A good teacher knows what to do and when to do it. And that comes with time. That comes with practice and time. You're not going to get that the first year, second year, third year. Right? It comes with time, over time. Okay? So you're not going to know what to do year one. You're not going to know what to do year two. But every year, you get a little bit better and you start to know what to do. Formative evaluation, we talked about formative evaluation, can be done as all except what?
Paired interview.
Huh?
Paired interview.
No, that's probably the best formative evaluation.
Because you writing samples.
Formative assessments or what? Did we talk about formative? Yeah, we talked about formative versus summative assessments. Formative assessments are designed to do what?
Comprehension test.
Make sure that you are moving towards your learning objectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we ask formative questions, right? That's for the teacher, not for the student. So which one should it be? Say it.
Proficiency is
Proficiency test.
Mm.
Yeah? Because that's at the end. If I teach you how to drive, and then you have to take the test, right? There's no formative there. I can't help you. Once you take that test, you either pass or fail, right? I can't help you after that. Formative assessments is not pass or fail. Formative assessments will allow me to say, okay, I need to teach you how to parallel park a little bit better. I need to teach you how to change lanes a little bit better. Okay? Go ahead and change that. Here's what I want you to do now. I want you to change lanes. If you didn't do it correctly, me having you change the lanes, that was a formative assessment. So now I'm going to do what? Practice changing lanes with you more. Okay? But if we in the driving test, and the driver test invigilator says what? Change lanes, and you change lanes incorrectly, you failed the test. There's nothing formative about that. Remember, formative is for the teacher to decide what she needs to do next. 95. Drama techniques are all of the following. We didn't talk about drama techniques, but I think you can get the answer. Drama techniques are all of the following except what? Which one do you think when we do drama techniques as well?
I think
What's the obvious answer?
practicing language.
What's the obvious answer? Providing entertainment.
But drama is for entertainment.
No, not for teaching.
Okay.
So I didn't go over theater techniques. Typically in my first session, that's the first thing we do is this thing called theater techniques. I really don't do it. I don't know why I don't do it recently. But theater techniques is it's a fun way of practicing the language.
Okay.
So you give them a script, right? So we have this one script. It's Death in the Afternoon. It's like 4 characters, and the students love it. The teachers love it because they get to play. They get to act it out, and then they can act it out different ways. They can act it out as a drama. They can act it out as a comedy. One group acts it out as like a Nigerian or like Chinese drama. It's all different. But the key is we're doing it to practice the language and it's not fun time. Okay, so things can be fun and they learn, but we're not doing things just for fun during instruction. Okay, we're not doing things just in the name of fun because we don't want to. We should never hear as educators say, "Well, they had fun."
Yeah.
No, the comedian, the clown, that's the clown's job. Yes, I want my learners to have fun, but more importantly, I want them to learn something. Okay, if they have fun and learn something, great. That's good for me. That's good for their amygdalas, right? Good for their RES, fine. If they don't have so much fun, but they still learned a lot, that's good too. I prefer that they have fun and learn, or learn and have fun. But if they don't have fun and they still learning, I'm fine with that. Okay? But if you're just telling me, oh, they just have fun. So, okay. Choral repetitions are best used for encouraging student participation. Why? Because now they're not being singled out. They can join in, right? And that they can make mistakes and then practice and not be singled out. Informative evaluation, students are assessed as they learn, right? What did I say yesterday? When you're teaching, you're teaching. When you're testing, you're testing. Okay. 98. In achievement testing, students, I didn't really cover this. So I did kind of cover it, but I didn't go over it in strong detail. Proficiency test is when we test skill, like a driving. I want to see how well you did it. I mean, I want to see how well you did, but more importantly, that you did it to the standard. All right. Did you parallel park? Did you change lanes correctly? Did you put on your seatbelt when you got into the car? Things like this. Proficiency. All right. Achievement test is to measure how much did a person grow. Okay. A lot of times, and sometimes we give proficiency tests in schools, but a lot of times what we give them are achievement tests. We want to know, did you started here and you ended there? How much achievement did you gain? Okay, that's mostly what we do in schools. It's important to know that whether you're giving a proficiency test or you're giving an achievement test. Okay? And then a standardized test. You've heard of standardized test, right? This is a test that measure how a group of people have done based on one set of instruction, standardized. So you want to see how all the Nigerian ninth graders have done because they all doing the same curriculum. Okay? You can't give a standardized test if they all taking different curriculums. Okay? Okay? They all need to be taking the same curriculum. Okay? And then there's probably some research or the government they seeing, okay, this school is good or this school is really good based on our curriculum because they measured at the top. And this school didn't measure. It measured in the middle. This school measured towards the end. We can only do that with standardized tests. You can't do that with a proficiency test. Okay?
So the answer is A.
The answer is, what was that? In achievement testing, students are tested on their use of language taught. Right. Taught. All right. Because it's everything that you learn. You may have learned how to change lanes, and I didn't teach you that. Or you may have learned this thing and you got more proficient without me doing other methods and learning other things, right? So proficiency, so a lot of times when you give a proficiency test, right, schools will take charge or take credit for a learner's proficiency, and the learner had not, the school had nothing to do with that proficiency because they don't even teach that thing. Like for instance, let's say you had a student who was really good in graphic design, like they top notch in graphic design, right? Mm-hmm. Right, and so they get a scholarship for graphic design at some big time graphic design school, right? What the school did is, look at our student, we taught them so well. We don't even teach graphic design. You don't even teach graphic design. What are you talking about? That student was intrinsically motivated. He woke up every Saturday morning, practice. You had nothing to do with that, right? But schools will take credit for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't go over this. Test validity. All right. So in a test, okay, when you have a test, there's two things. All right, let me say this. I didn't go over this, and this is important. In a test, when you're testing, okay, most tests that you take, especially when a teacher creates it, is nonsense test. All right, the test that you give students, I guarantee you, is a nonsense test because it lacks validity and it lacks reliability. Okay. In order to have a good test, okay, the test must have validity. What is the validity? That you are asking questions. That the test or the question is asking what you are actually testing for. And a lot of times, teachers write questions that test for other things other than what they're testing for. So the argument would be for a word problem test. Mm-hmm. Did you write the word problem coherently enough, right? Where it's only testing for whether the student can add or subtract or whatever the math point is. Mm-hmm. Or in that word problem, does the student need to know grammar?
Okay.
Or do they need to know passive voice and have understanding? Because then, if their inability to understand a certain grammar point affects how they answer that question, your question now is invalid. Because you're testing for what? Whether they can add, subtract, reduce to fraction, whatever it is, right? But if it requires me to do something else outside of that, I now have an invalid question. Okay? A lot of times, most teachers do that. Okay? Believe it or not, tests like the IELTS are not, they have low validity. Believe it or not. Very popular tests, expensive tests like the IELTS has, if you look, because you can go and look, it has a low validity score. Okay? I think it has a higher reliability score because they design it that way so they can keep on getting your money. So if you notice somebody in the IELTS, if they got 5.5 on the IELTS, you notice they won't go from a 5.5 to a 7 because the test is designed for you to only really jump one band, 5.5 to a 6. All right? If a person jumped from a 5.5 to like a 7, there's only one thing that really happened. They fell asleep in the test. They didn't really try hard the first time, right? Whether they intentionally load the test, did poorly on the test, or they fell asleep, didn't have enough time. But if they tried hard, typically, if you tried hard the first time, the best, regardless of how much practicing you do, the next time you're probably most likely you're only going to score 6 from a 5.5 because they create the owls that have high reliability. What's reliability? Reliability is consistent results. So if I give you this test on Monday, you should get about the same score on Thursday if you take the retest. There shouldn't be a high difference in variation. All right. If it is, there's something wrong with your test. Okay. Most of the tests that teachers give are lack of validity and reliability, and they're not fair to the students. Even me. Okay. Why? People go to school just for writing test assessments. It's a skill. It's a skill that you need to go to school for, right? But most schools are not going to spend the money to hire an assessment writer. They're just not going to do it. They rely on the teachers, and then so a lot of times a student score is really not reflective on their ability because they're tests. And I've seen some horrible tests made by teachers all throughout the world. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Personally, I hate tests for that reason, because a lot of talented people lost their confidence because they did poorly on a test that was never valid or reliable in the first place. You see?
Yeah.
And this also explains why people would do poorly in school, but then go out and do very well in life, very successful in life. Because in life, you take the real tests, authentic tests. In life, you take proficiency tests. You don't take achievement tests. You don't take a standardized test. You don't take tests that have poor validity and reliability. Okay? I met the guy who does, TOEFL? You ever heard of the TOEFL test?
Yeah.
TOEFL. So I met the guy who was in charge of TOEFL in Asia years ago. Do you know how long it takes to write one test question on that TOEFL? 18 months
18 what?
to write one question. Because they write the question, and then they have to scrub it through, check for validity, reliability, and then at a certain point it gets on the actual test, but it's not graded. So a lot of times when you take a TOEFL, IELTS, a lot of those questions are research questions, because what they want to see is how many people got the question right and wrong, and based on that number, then they will add it as a question that it will be actually graded. It takes about 18 months to do that. So if it takes 18 months for ETS, that's the company who runs TOEFL. For ETS to create one question, you're gonna tell me that when you up at 12 midnight writing that midterm exam that you're doing this right? I think not. I think not. So test validity refers to what?
Appropriateness, reliability, no, appropriateness of testing language.
It refers to the reliability of the test results, but I don't really like that
Yeah,
response. It really test validity determines how much whether the question, the test item actually is testing for what is being tested for. Okay. What is the most important concept?
We should take,
The answer is C here, but I don't know. I don't like those word things. Those word choices. 100. Last question. What is the most important concept in language learning?
Language to speak fluent. B.
Spoken fluency?
activation,
No.
the sharing of language in context.
No. The what? Activation of learning in context. Everything is about context. Context. And that they activate what? We engage. Activation is what? We get to engage them using the language in context, authentically. All right? Our job is not to get them to be fluent. Your job is not to get them to be fluent in math or language arts. Your job is to get them to practice it. The fluency, right, will come later, right? If I get you to ride a bike, I don't need you to be fluent in riding a bike. I just need you to stay up on the bike and don't fall. Over time, you're going to become fluent in it. Over time, in your own way. I'll see you 5 months later, you're doing wheelies, you're jumping off the curb, right? I don't need to teach you how to jump off the curb and do wheelies and all that stuff. I just need to teach you how to keep the bike upright and that you don't fall, right? All right. So that's the TESOL course. So tomorrow, keep this kind of with you because this is a good point of reference.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll do the last thing, which is grammar boot camp, and it's going to suck a little bit, but it looks like, especially your grammar, looks pretty tight. So you should have fun with it. All right. Because you answered a lot of on the grammar part. You answered a lot of them correctly. All right. But tomorrow we'll take the grammar book and we'll go through the grammar, and that's it. It'll probably take us 4 to 5 hours, but we'll try to go through as quickly as possible, and then that's it. That'll be it. We'll be done. All right. What I need is, I think, on the WhatsApp group, you sent me your passport and everything because that's how I'm gonna write it on. That's how it's gonna be written on your certificate.
Okay.
Okay. Exactly how it's on your passport spelled, unless you want something different. Did you want it exactly the way it's on your
Yes.
Common or passport?
Yes.
What about you? Okay. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank
Last
you
class.
so much.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't think this. Another one.